Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. Today, I have another phenomenal guest with me today. This is the beautiful Kelly. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you so much.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I feel like the guides, whatever you want to call it, brought us together for whatever reason to share a message and help others going through this crazy process and awakening right now. A lot of people are beginning to really wake up and are lost, and some of us volunteered to wake up earlier to help others with that process because it's crazy and scary, but it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. We were just talking about that in the pre-chat right before, and it was like getting so deep real quick. And I was like, let's just jump on and record. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of old systems that are breaking down too. So I'd love for you to kind of share the thoughts that you were beginning to share with me in our pre-chat with everyone.
Well, I feel like this whole year for me has been I kind of call a Phoenix year or I call like the Tower card. Like a lot of people when they wake up, they think it's going to be like sunshine and roses, the Sun card, but in reality, it's more like the Tower card or like a Phoenix. And I've been burning down to the ashes, and I'm at the very bottom of the ashes, and now things are building back up, and I'm becoming truly who I am on a soul level. Like I actually know who I really am and where I come from, and all this stuff. And you kind of sound crazy and you think you're crazy. And I have experiences at night where I have beings come and visit me. And it's kind of scary because, and as one of my guides tells me that they can't physically talk like we're talking. So it
Yeah.
comes in, almost sounds like a hovering drone sound. And the
Yes.
first thing, like, oh, and for a second, you're like, oh my God, you want to panic and you think it's something bad. And then she's, no, I'm fine. And, but what it is, as she tells me, she's helping me integrate the energies. And my guys have been having me stay home the last 3 days just to get used to this new shift in energies because it's a lot. But it's a lot of good things are coming in and a lot of systems are breaking down. And the ones who are in control don't want
Mm.
to take the control away. So they're trying to
Yeah.
scare those who are not fully awake. And a lot of the things that we've been told about galactics and fairies and stuff like that aren't true. And a lot of that is coming to the surface, a lot of truths and stuff. And it's scary. It's very scary and it's worried, but I also know that it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
A phoenix is one of my totems, and I'm kind of rising up into that beautiful energy and being who I really am. And it feels amazing. It feels really
Yeah.
good, but it's intense.
Yeah. Oh, it is intense. And it's so cool when you talk to someone and you're like you feel like you're good. You like you said, like you're going crazy. You're hearing these because I've been getting a lot of teachings during the night also. And some nights
Yeah.
I am being talked to all night long because I can hear it.
Yeah.
I can't tell what the
Yeah.
words are. It's almost like the Snoopy teacher, wah, 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 but it's all night long. Like I feel like I'm just these funnels of information are just pouring into me.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like when I'm going to bed, I'm clocking into going to work. Kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm clocking out. And sometimes I feel like I've been gone for weeks. And even I was saying earlier, and how we kind of met is people know me as an animal psychic. Actually, I'm a divine communicator, so I hear everything. But animals are my main focus because I'm a huge animal nut. And I know there was a big shift because my dog is insistent being by my side today. So she knows there's something different. And usually when I'm in here on my computer, I kind of keep everybody out, my dog and two cats, because especially my younger cat walks in front of things and steps on the keyboard. But today she was really insistent being by my side. So she's actually here on the floor with me, just hanging out because she just wants to be by me because she knows it almost feels like I've been gone for a long time, even though it's
yeah.
only been a few hours.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's incredible. Like it's so amazing. I love that you're so tuned in that you're listening to your animals and allowing that closeness to
yeah,
be there because they need it. And so do you, or they wouldn't
yeah.
be there, you know. It's a two-sided thing.
Oh, definitely. And the one thing I love about animals, and a reason I'm so drawn to animals is they're far more aware than people realize. I do a lot of pet readings, and let's say my business is elementaltails. I just started it this year, and I help do Reiki and communicate with animals. And I think it's kind of I kind of call it a side mission because really what I'm doing is helping people heal themselves, but I do it through their animals.
Right.
And I get a lot of people who are beginning to wake up and understand. And no, animals are fully aware of what's going on. They know who they are, they know what they are. They come from all different places just like us. They're on a journey just like us. And they know a lot more about the spiritual stuff than we do. My older cat, especially, he's almost 18, and I call him a wizard. He's my wizard cat, pretty much. And he's so wise. He's actually the face of my elementaltails logo. And I didn't realize that till a few months, like 6 months after it was designed. My friend intuitively designed it, and turns out it was actually him. And whenever I'm unaware of something, I'll ask him. And it's amazing to see the things he's shown me, the things he's experienced. And some people say, oh, animals can't be that evolved, but they really are. I think they're more evolved than people realize. And they also can be human. They can be different species. And I think a lot of actually, my older cat especially likes to say, like, humans think they're better than us because they walk on two legs and have thumbs. That's what he says a lot. And he says therefore, and I've learned so much about cats, and cats are my favorite animals to communicate with because they're more direct and right to the point. And I love the way they express things and explain things to me, like, oh, okay, I get it. And even during a session, I'll ask my two cats their advice on things and how to help a situation, because they're in this life experience what it is to be a cat, so they know far more than I do. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. They do know way more than we give them credit for. I firmly believe that too. And I
yeah,
also believe that about special needs children, because I actually read a post by a lady the other day that has special needs kids, and she feels a little lost in her spiritual journey. And I suggested to her, and I made that comment that special needs kids are far more connected spiritually
yeah,
than
yeah, I've actually heard that. I have a good friend that has two boys. She's also very woo-woo. They're both autistic on different spectrums. And she talks about how, especially, you can tell they're more evolved. It's just, I think it's so, and I'm not a medical professional, so I can't say this offhand, but it's almost like I've also heard that they're just at a more advanced level than we are, and a higher vibration than we are,
yeah,
and the human body just can't adapt to it. And as my guys are telling me, some of us old souls that came in, it's our, they made sure that we had bodies that were able to handle the energy and handle everything, because it's really intense, and you're always growing, you're always getting better. And I will say, I'm not saying I'm better than everybody. I'm not
no,
saying I'm more evolved than everybody. I've just been on this journey for a long time. And I know it's not an easy journey, and
right,
I've it's been a long time. And I just want to emphasize like that, and that too, just to say it's not easy. It's a tough journey, but I'm just very proud of where I've come from. But I also understand more than I probably would have at the beginning. I mean, even like the one guy that comes in that kind of hovers, that sounds like a hovering drone. That's the best way to describe. I can't fully describe the sound. It's like if a drone and a bee combined, that's what the sound
yeah,
it sounds like to me. And but if I heard that a few years ago, I wouldn't like think I would not have believed it. So, and I've learned
right.
not to get scared, but it takes a long time to get to this spot. I even look back to myself, like where I was 10 years ago and now, and I'm just like, wow, it's amazing. So
Yeah, it's incredible. My friend and I were talking this morning actually about how you change over time, and how she's like, if you'd have known me 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't have even liked me. And I said, well, you might not have liked me
yeah.
either 20 years ago. It's about that evolution. And unfortunately, not everyone is open to the evolution. So they
No.
kind of stay in this cycle that just keeps repeating itself
Yeah.
over and over with different faces and different situations, but it's the same thing on repeat, unfortunately. I'm super
Yeah,
grateful for the evolution I've
my birth yeah, I call my birth family are kind of like that. I'm the black sheep of my family, which is actually very common for light workers and star seeds and energy healers. They're very still closed in, and both my parents passed away. That's kind of started me on this journey, and both were alcoholics. And my mom and I had a very challenging relationship, and that's all I'm going to say about. I'm just being nice about it. But my brother had a different experience. He had the good version of my mother. I had the different version of my mother. And so he he's kind of thinks this whole stuff is weird. Like he accepts it, but I know he thinks I'm crazy. And my sister-in-law pretends like she likes it, but I know I can feel her energy and I can kind of
Yeah.
feel her thoughts. And I know she's kind of like, I'm the weird, I'm the weird sister-in-law, and she doesn't like it too much when I interact with my niece and nephew. I hardly see them because I'm planting seeds and I'm the cool aunt in their mind. They're 6 and 3, and they love me because I talk about rocks and crystals. My little niece loves fairies, and I talk about fairies. Say, yeah, fairies are real, but your mom and dad can't see them, and so they love that. And I know that's kind of my job. I can't get too involved with their family because they have their lessons to learn in the journey. But I can plant seeds, and that's what I love to do, especially with kids. I was at an event over the summer promoting my animal psychic business. And there's this little girl that came up to my table and she's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, I do animal communication and readings." "That's a job?" And her eyes just like got really big and like her whole world changed. I think she thought you'd
Yeah.
have to have a normal job like being a doctor or a
Yeah.
teacher or something like that, which those jobs are great, but she didn't know that you could actually do something different like that. And so now that's probably what she wants to be when she grows up. So I thought that was really cool that I kind of led her on that path
Yeah.
and
Because
so
she'll
forth.
never forget that. She'll remember that even if she forgets on some level in her subconscious mind, that's going to linger and something's going to trigger that memory when she gets
Mhm.
older and bring all of that back to her all over again. So that is really cool.
Yeah, I look back at my life too. It's like I realized I had all these people. Like I said, my parents, my relationship was troubling, but I had people on my path to help me. My old horse mentor, she was there and she was very open. And then I worked at a Renaissance festival. I'm based here in Washington, but I used to live in Ohio, and I worked at the Ohio Renaissance Festival, and I worked with a jousting troupe, the real armor and knights and everything. And that taught me in my 20s that you can have an unusual job and be happy. And actually, you're happier with it versus someone who's forced to get a job that they may not necessarily want. And I went to college, but I never finished. And it took me a long time to say it's okay. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just
Right.
means it just wasn't for me. So,
Right.
and there's a lot of program. And grew up in a household and family where you had to go to college to be happy and successful. And I've learned very quickly that's not always the case.
Yeah. Oh, it's very true. I remember I used to be a nurse. I was an LPN and I got confused with an RN all the time. I got accused of being an RN, but I remember there was one lady who was talking to me in the hallway one day, and she just kept on and on and on about people who were high school dropouts. And I mean, it was very derogatory. And I let her go on for a few minutes. And then finally I looked at her and I said, "Did you know I'm a high school dropout?" And her mouth, her jaw about hit the floor. And she's like, "There's no way." I'm like, "Hey, I'm a high school dropout. I got my GED." You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're not intelligent if you don't. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying everyone should go drop out of school. That's not what
Right,
I mean,
right,
but
right,
it's it doesn't take that piece of paper to show you that you're intelligent, you know? It's something for
right.
other people to look at. It's not for you. That's how I
Right. And
see
that's
it.
something I've learned for myself. And I was labeled with a learning disability growing up. But now I look back and I realize there wasn't really anything wrong with me. I just wasn't programmable. That's what my understanding was. And I think differently from others. And my brother was the opposite. He was the honor student and could have been part of the smart kids program. And I was a little bit different. But looking back, I realized there was nothing really wrong with me. I just wasn't that way. And I'm not saying college isn't important. If it's for you, go for it. But
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
also learned that there are other ways, or there's other things that make you happier. So, and
Yeah.
even I hate to say this, my brother, I mean, he has a really good job, but I can tell he's not happy. He went to his college, he got his master's and everything. And he'd rather be making pottery, but he thinks he has to have this regular, I call, excuse me, a 3D job, or I call muggle job a lot and
Yeah.
stuff. But he could be a brilliant pottery artist if he really put that effort in. So, and he'd be happier for it. I want him to do that, but he doesn't listen to me because I mean, what do I know?
Yeah. Yeah, everyone finds their own way. And you know, we need those other people. We need the people that are passionate about science and want to be doctors and lawyers and all of those things. We need those people. So it's just important for us to realize that our value and their value is the same. We're just doing
Definitely.
a different thing in life, but our value is the same.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like right now, especially it's like we're entering this Aquarius age that we're stepping into what we're really supposed to be and what brings us joy and happiness and love. And we were talking about that last week at a retreat I was at. I was with my friend Michelle. She does essential oil stuff. She's one of the best essential oil people that I've ever met. Actually, I'm going to a class to her later on tonight, and I'm so excited. I love doing her stuff. But we were talking about how like if it doesn't bring you joy anymore, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge because society says you need to do this, but what our guides and angels want us to do is step in to do what we really want, even if it's scary. And with like my business, Elementales, I was a dog groomer for 8 years, and I did that and I really enjoyed it. But when and I was also doing psychic fairs on the side and doing readings and building that business up. And I got this idea last year that I needed to get a logo, get this business going. And then my original plan was to slowly build the business, but in February I got let go of my grooming job, which I thought was safe. And but it's also because Spirit gave me a big kick out to get moving. Because I admit now I never would have left. I would have just stayed in that safe job.
Yeah.
And I like grooming dogs, but it's not my passion. My passion is helping animals feel better and doing the Reiki and help them relieved. I love doing healings on people. I love it when they come back and tell me that they feel better. It makes me feel so good. And I love building trust with animals, even in my neighborhood. There's a lot of deer in my neighborhood, and I built up a relationship with them. I've learned how to work with them. And last Saturday, for the first time, I was actually able to feed one a strawberry by my hand. It was really cool. Like I tossed it out for her, and she finally was just like, and she was a little hesitant too, because she also didn't want to hurt me because she understood that she was really nervous and really anxious, and but she just reached out and grabbed it, and it's like it was really cool for both of us building up that trust with each
Yeah.
other. And it built my confidence up as an animal communicator that I've grown, and I've gotten to a healing heart space that I can actually bring wildlife to have a contact with a wild animal like a deer is pretty special, especially in my area because I live in an area that's very wooded. So there's a lot of like coyotes and cougars and predators and stuff. And they're okay with people, but to be able to do that, I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing that I was able to have that contact. And even the wild animals, they have a job too. A lot of them hold
Yeah.
space, and a lot of them are grid workers and healers too, but they heal more the land. And like deer mostly are they're kind of they hold space for a lot of us. So
Yeah, I've heard that about deer. So I've never heard that they are grid workers before, but it makes sense to me. Can you explore that
yeah,
a
well, I
little
actually
bit
just
with
heard
us?
that. Well, that's actually what I just heard when I was talking to you. Like I get saying, oh, they're grid workers. So I was like, okay. So, and a lot of times I hear stuff so quickly when it comes through. It's like, I don't know. And people ask, where do you get this information? I don't know. I just hear it comes through. And this is where it's also challenging being a psychic and a medium is you hear stuff that I can't Google it. I can't Google our dear grid workers
Right.
or this and nothing's going to come up. You might see one or two things, but they're not going to share stuff or seeing like, can my cat become a human and vice versa? You're not going to find that stuff. You could, but it's a very vague thing. So that's where you have to really trust on what you're hearing and understand that it is, and then really honor. I feel like the more you honor that it's true and real, the more you open up. Because I'm starting to see more things. Like I'll see some of the elementals and stuff, and I look at like, am I really seeing that? Yes, I am. But they move and look differently than what we've been told. To me, like the elementals, they move like an old 1920s like video or film. You see like the old animated, the way they move is very quick and very like kind of rigidy. To me, that's how they move when I see them move. And they look kind of like a Jim Henson from Labyrinth or Dark Crystal. That's how they really look. They don't look like Tinkerbell. A lot of people
Yeah.
think they're like this pretty, as they say, prissy looking fairy, but most of them are actually look more like they came out from the earth or like roots and trees. So and trees are great too. Trees have a lot of knowledge too. I talk to trees a lot, and they're amazing to talk to and heal. And if you're having a bad day, it sounds kind of hippie like, but go hug a tree. It really does work.
Yeah.
They don't mind taking all of your anxiety and pain and anger because they can go right down to the roots and release it. They want to help you heal. The trees love to help. And even if you put your hand against the tree and ask to feel its heartbeat, they will open it up to you to feel it. And it's an amazing to feel that amazing loving energy.
Yeah. Yeah, they are pretty amazing. I remember I was at the park not too long ago, and I there was a cypress tree near the it was right next to the boardwalk. It was actually they had cut out part of the boardwalk to accommodate it actually.
Mm.
And we were standing there talking, and I just put my arm around the tree and leaned my head against it as we were talking, and it just was like you can just feel it. You can just feel the relaxation come through you as you're just
Yeah.
leaning into the tree. It's really amazing. It truly is.
Yeah, they're amazing. And they, like I said, they have so much knowledge and where I live, there's a lot of old growth trees. That trees have been around for a long time. So they have so much warmth and knowledge. And I love interacting with all of them. They're fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, they really are. So do you I have heard, and I actually went and talked to our trees, but have you heard that trees can protect your property, like to
Oh
keep
yes, I've heard.
unwanted energies from coming in?
Oh yeah, it's interesting too. Like with my trees, they talk to me a lot, especially in the morning. I get up every morning about 4:35. My older cat gets me up for feeding all the time on the dot. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, he'll get me up. And I've learned just to deal with it. So I'll get up and take my dog out to go to the bathroom. And like I said, I live in an area that's kind of wooded. And sometimes if I go out there, they'll kind of warn me if there's something nearby. They say, "Oh, be careful, there might be a coyote or something," right? So that's really interesting. But then they also reassure me that they're safe and that they're watching over me and stuff too. And they have also mentioned that they like that when I toss apples and grapes and stuff for the animals too, because they think that's really great. Because and also I do give offerings and I give other things to the trees and elemental beings when I go for walks and stuff. They really appreciate it. And they're when I say it doesn't need to be on a silver platter, they don't care about that. Just toss it in the woods. Like, here you go. And they appreciate it so much.
That's so cool. That's really, really cool. Do
Yeah.
you have contact every single time you go for a walk in the woods?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like it's constant talking to some. And then I live in like I said, I live in an area that's very old growth trees. And I live in a place called Sudden Valley, which is about 2 hours north of Seattle. It's technically part of Bellingham, but we call it Sudden Valley. And there's a lake, a small little lake with a trail. I go walking around it, and there's a lot of old growth trees. Like when you walk in, you feel like you're being watched. And one of my guides actually told me there's a portal underneath the lake itself. It's a man-made lake and you can feel that there's something very unique. And I've actually kind of seen it during my meditations and astral that there's something deep down there. And I kind of feel like there's more here too, but it's just very hidden. And a lot of people who say that they come to this area, even if they're not as aware and awake, they can feel the differences. But when I go walking, I constantly hear the elementals talk. I hear the animals talk. I can feel the animals that have been around. It's really amazing. I try to go walk around there at least once a week with my dog because it helps me ground and release and reconnect with the earth. And also I hear the trees love it when I come around too because I also sing light language and speak light language. So I'll go up to the trees and I'll put my hand against the trunk and I'll sing or do some type of light language with them. And they love it. And I always hear they're like, "Oh, they're so nice to hear that language again," because for a lot of them it's been a long time or they've never seen someone who has that language. So they're very surprised. And it's interesting too when I go walking around and the deer look at me. When I first moved to Sudden Valley 2 years ago, the deer looked at me like, "You're different." They knew I was an unusual person. I'm not like every human. And that's where this one deer that I was able to feed by hand, she wanted to take for me for a long time, but she was confused because she sees a human body, but she also sees the real me. And obviously, another thing she shared with me is she's never seen one of my kind before because my soul I'm mostly from the ocean. I have a lot of ocean lifetimes. So I am more connected with the ocean than the land. So it's the first time she's really seen someone like me on the land. So for her, it was a little unusual. So that's also where she was a little hesitant, but she definitely knows I'm different. And she knows
Yeah.
my dog is different. My dog doesn't bark at the deer. She understands like, okay, you be nice to the deer. So that they actually appreciate that. But yeah, I'm always hearing stuff. I also hear rocks and crystals. I have tons of rocks and crystals, and they have energy too. And I
Yeah.
use a lot of rocks and crystals during healings with people. And people underestimate rocks. They think, oh, there's not much to them. It's just a rock or crystal. But I mean, they really do hold energy and clearing. I used them on a cat a few weeks ago, and this cat flopped on his back. and like let me completely take this crystal on his belly because he had tummy issues. And it was so cool to see because like you can't force a cat
No,
to
you
do
cannot.
that. And for him to do it on his own, it's also confirmation for me that it's the right thing. And every night before bed, I'll clear my dog with a crystal. I'll take a little amethyst and push it against her body, and she'll be passed out, and she'll jolt up because she'll feel it and stuff too. So it's really cool to see that. And I also have friends that have a rock and crystal business, and they go to flea markets and psychic fairs, and they do a ceremony, and she constantly is talking to all the different rocks, even just a tiny little pebble, you can feel the energy. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I'm a rock hound. I haven't been collecting in a while, but I used to do it quite often. And I had somebody ask me one time, well, how do you know a good rock from a bad rock? And I was like, it's the one you're attracted to. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's the one that you're attracted to. It doesn't have to be anything special. Like I have this rock right here, and it's just a solid black little rock, and it just feels good. You just know, you know?
yeah. I always tell people go for what you feel is what you're attracted to. And I always it's like find a rock you like, but then look up, then this is where you can maybe look up of what it's good for. And you'll actually find is actually what you've been wanting. It's what you've been needing. And I always do
Yes.
have like rocks and crystal bracelets on. Actually, I'm very empathic. I'm very intuitive. And the bracelets and the necklaces and stuff help me shield a lot of that stuff so that way I don't feel overwhelmed. I have a whole selection. So I'll ask like I'll feel the energy. Okay, what should I be wearing today? So I have different amulets I'll wear, and that I kind of connect like, okay, this is what works for me for today.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but
Because
yeah,
your
and
energy does vary from day to day. So that's important.
yeah, yeah, and especially if I'm going to be going into a place like a grocery store, which is sometimes it's like a war zone. It gets very intense with the energy, and especially when people are panicking about the weather and other stuff going on, it's very intense and very overwhelming. So that's where I have to really shield myself. I also have an essential oil spray called like 21st Century Armor, and I'll spritz that on me too. And it really does help. It doesn't completely make him stop, but it helps relieve some of that energy so I can just go in and stuff. But I also plan out my time to go to the grocery. I don't go when it's really busy. I don't go on the weekends. I plan out when the good thing about my new job and my business is I can do it when I want. So I can go to the
Right.
grocery store when it's not busy. I don't have to go on the weekends and stuff like that. I also am mindful what I watch. I don't do a lot of online social media stuff. I don't do a lot of TikTok because I feel like a lot of stuff is just, I think it's a lot of that stuff is to get your energy low. That's my personal feeling. And a lot of it is trying to kind of keep you angry. Even a lot of the TV shows that you watch, the reality shows, they're not there to entertain you. They're to kind of keep you in a lower
Yeah.
state and just make you upset. And even a lot of the reality shows, most of the drama is fake. Even if they say it's not, it's fake. And that they want that reaction. So I mean,
Yeah, it's
so
true. I
I try
actually
to
interviewed a
watch.
girl who talked about that. She was on a reality show. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the Bachelorette kind of show like that. She was on there,
Mm.
and she said the finished product of the show was so much manipulation to the actual scenario. She talks about it in the interview that I did with her. So I agree with you
Yeah.
100% on that one.
Yeah. Well, I had friends that were in a reality show a couple years ago. I won't say it, but they went through the whole process and they talked about how they would invent drama and stuff like that and make something a bigger deal than it really was.
Yeah.
And actually this reality show didn't get picked up for a second season because it was actually a real competition. It was actually a real show and there wasn't the whole drama that they wanted, so they let it go. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we live in that type of society, but it's what sells. I was talking to someone the other
yep.
day and said, it's not that the beautiful moments and the good people aren't there. There's probably more of that than there is the other. It's just not as loud, so people aren't paying
No.
attention to it.
Yeah, and even like comedy shows, if you I was rewatching one last year and I realized that they did put a lot of manipulating brainwashing stuff in and stuff that are more relevant now. It's like, well, that's interesting. They've been doing it for a long time and they know what they're doing.
Yes,
They're
they
fully
do.
aware of what they're doing. And they're very smart. I mean, they might not be good, but they're very smart and they're very aware of the things that they're doing. So they try it. And I always, my friends and I joke around like there's sometimes they don't want some of us here to change things, but that's why we came here. And even I've also heard that from some of my more galactic guides that some of us that came here to really make a difference were put into these really low vibrational families to kind of hide us. And they didn't really, because I didn't really
Mm.
understand my gifts until about 6 years ago. I was told that I was very intuitive. I was told that I was very aware of things, but I was kind of oblivious to a lot of it until about 6 years ago. So when I really started opening up to my gifts, but I also was told that they didn't want us to, some of us to wake up too early because it could have not been so good. And I also know that I know that they're not allowed to take us out directly, but they can find ways to get us to not be as higher up. I was talking to some of my other soul tribe members, and a lot of us have very similar backgrounds. Actually, I don't think I've come across one light worker or starseed that has not had a challenging childhood. I think it's kind of a prerequisite to the point where if, and I'm not saying that everyone had a bad experience, but if they didn't have some weird crazy experience, I don't want to say it makes me question them, but I feel like as far they're not as far along as the past as someone who's been through more challenging, I say.
Yeah, I've never thought of it as a way, the low vibrational families as a way to hide the light workers, but that does make a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Now, I didn't have what
Yeah.
you would call a traumatic childhood. However, I was raised in a very religious home where it was
Yeah.
unacceptable to talk about this stuff. So I guess in that way, it was, well,
Yeah.
religion is very fear driven, which is a
Yeah.
low
I grew
vibration. So,
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household and I grew up and I would say for like I wasn't terribly abused or neglected. I mean, I had everything taken care of. And mine was more of emotional. And I also have a lot of friends who grew up Mormon. I have one of my really good friend Jeff, he grew up Mormon in Utah and he's also gay, which I can't imagine what he would go through. But he doesn't talk about a lot, but a little bit where growing up was challenging for him because he felt all these amazing energies and things and he thought he was crazy. It wasn't until years later he realized where he came from, he kind of came from. And a lot of our family, they're not intentionally bad. They don't know that what they're doing is wrong. It's just what they've been programmed. Even my parents, I appreciate the things that my parents did, and they did the best to their ability. And they weren't bad people themselves either, but they were just stuck and broken too. And they never had the chance to heal like I have. So I understand. But yeah, that's what I've been told by some of my guides that some of us were put in hiding, which kind of makes sense because I mean if I would have talked about some of the stuff I experience now. And I also kind of remember as a child, very briefly during meditations and breathwork stuff I've done, I've seen myself as an infant being able to talk to things and see things. And I even had a vision of myself laying in my crib and moving my mobile with my hand, just laying in like and
oh,
just doing
wow.
this in
Yeah.
my mobile moving and my mom walking in and seeing it and freaking out. And she came from a very religious background. And I can't blame her from her perspective. That'd be really scary to come in and see that or see like your daughter talking to something that's not there
Mhm.
and seeing things. And now looking back, I could see all sorts of things and even a lot of stuff I don't remember. My cousins were like, "Yeah, you were very intuitive, Kelly. You always knew what we wanted. You always made things better." And I don't remember any of that stuff. And even looking back with the animals, I remember people telling me like I could feed a horse grain and when no one else could. I remember standing in my cousin's barn and feeding this horse grain, and he's like, "I can't believe she's letting you do that. I can't believe it." And now I understand why I could do it.
Yeah.
But even then, my whole childhood, it's almost like there was points along the way. As one of my friend calls them breadcrumbs. There were breadcrumbs along the way that showed me, and like I could always do it because people always ask me, where did I learn how to talk to animals? I don't know. I've always been able to do it, but it wasn't until about 6 years ago when someone else showed me how I was doing it, and like, and I always like to use Harry Potter a lot because I'm a huge Harry Potter
Yeah.
fan, and I like in the very first book, the very first chapter, Harry talks about being able to do things he didn't understand, like his aunt would give him a haircut and the hair would grow, or he would find himself on top of the roof and didn't know, and he didn't know he was a wizard. He was always a wizard. He didn't know
Yeah.
it until Hagrid came to tell him, and then it all made sense. So that's how I feel with myself, with my psychic and spiritual gifts and everything. Like I could do it my whole life, but there was no one there to tell me this is what you could do. And that's what I've been doing a lot, especially these last 6 years of really opening up. But the best thing is, if anyone who's beginning to wake up, is go find your soul tribe. They're going to help you. I mean, I adore my soul tribe. I feel like they're my real family. They're my brothers and sisters and from other lifetimes, and I feel very, very close with them. And having that support really, really helped. I mean, they also understand the craziness and the weird things that I go through. So it makes me feel less crazy and less insane. And they
Yeah.
have the most loving and supportive energy. And all of our gifts are different and unique. That's the best part,
Yes.
is like my specialty is animals. I have one who can see auras. She can see all the different colors. She doesn't have to take a picture to see them. She can read each layer. And I love it when she does it too. Like we'll go to an event and she's on a panel and she'll start reading people, and a lot of skeptics become believers because they'll go like I love seeing the reaction when
Yeah.
my friends do it. And then I have my other friend Jeff, he makes like amulets and stuff like this, and he does a lot of energy work and he helps people awaken their gifts. I have another friend that she can draw your spirit guide. She does a lot of light language stuff. So it's just really cool how we're all different. A lot of us can do the same things, but we all have our specialties. And that's one thing I want to for the psychic is everybody is psychic, everybody is gifted. It just having somebody else to kind of show you what it is that you can do and that you're not crazy, because you feel crazy sometimes when you
Yeah.
start experiencing it. And I deal with a lot of I work with a lot of people who are beginning to wake up. Like I do these psychic fairs, and a lot of within the last year I've noticed a little more people who are new are coming in, and you can always tell this. They come to the fair and they're kind of like looking around and their hands are in their pockets, they're nervous and scared, and then they finally approach some of us and they're actually kind of surprised how normal we look,
Yeah.
because I think they expect a certain stereotype of how a psychic or intuitive is supposed to look, and then
Yes.
they talk to us and they realize that we're on the same boat. And especially when I tell people I didn't know I could do all of this stuff, it makes them feel better that
Yeah.
they're not crazy. And then for long they come to every event. Then they start coming to drum circles and breath work, and it's really cool to see their journey from the beginning to the end. So now, and but you just see this relief on their eyes when they finally realize they found people who can relate to you. And that's actually kind of what happened to me. I started going to psychic events and spiritual events. That's how I found my soul tribe, because I was looking for other people who were like me. Because I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, it's a very scary and lonely path, but it helps having that support.
Oh, 100%. I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own, as you did there for a little while. You were figuring it out little bit by little bit. But when you
Yeah.
come into contact with people that validate the things you've been through and then tell you stories, which will make you remember other stories that you've been through and experienced, it makes a world of difference. It
It
truly
does.
does.
And I love hearing their experiences and where they've come from and their journeys. And they've really inspired me for my business. Like I never thought I'd have my own business like this. I always thought it'd be a grooming shop. I originally was going to have a grooming shop for dogs that's holistic. But then when it became into an actual Reiki healing business, and it's been kind of slow with business. And I know I'm going to be busy. I see myself traveling. I know it's going to take off and be very successful, but it's a little scary because it's an outside of the box kind of business
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's just a unique, but I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And my guides won't let me get another job. Actually, I do DoorDash on the side and I do some pet sitting. And thankfully I have funding on the side from what my parents left me, so I've been okay. But it's also very scary. But I've actually tried to apply for part-time jobs like at a grocery store, and I've not been getting hired because I'm not supposed to be doing that work.
Right.
And it's
Right.
that having faith. And it's beginning to pick up, but it's a very scary process. But having that support with my soul tribe and giving their feedback, and I have some that give very honest feedback to help it be improved, it's a big help. I would never been able to do it without their support.
Yeah. I almost
So
feel like that little girl that said it's a job with her eyes rolled big. I almost feel like you have
yeah.
that inner little girl inside of you still too. That's like, that's a job. I can do that and not have to.
Yeah.
I almost feel
And
like
that,
she's kind of inside you too.
well, that's actually a great point, actually, to break too, is I do also a lot of inner child work, and I know that's actually something that I'm supposed to be doing at some point in time too, is help people with their inner child. Because I'm still very kid-like in some ways. I still watch cartoons and I nurture my inner child. And I've been doing a lot of that inner child work. A lot of people forget to do that. And when they think of their inner child, they think of this happy, wonderful kid. but deep down, your inner child is actually probably really sad. Like mine was just curled up in a little ball, crying, not allowed. I was not allowed to have a voice and be my true self. It wasn't really till this year I finally can be, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, it's your problem, not mine. And I'm a very nice person, but I'm not a pushover. And people are really surprised. I'm also really short. I'm only 4'11". It's hard to tell with the computer, but I'm really short. But people don't see me as short because I have this very big energy. But I love doing inner child work. And I want to do eventually, long down the road at some point, do an inner child workshop to help people feel better and do like kid like things like coloring and bubbles and watch cartoons and eat candy or something along those lines, but then also do journaling and breath work and stuff like that to help release. Because I also feel like that's also kind of where your intuitive gifts are, is that inner child. And like I said, if I working at the Renaissance Festival when I was just out of high school was such an eye opener for me. And now I'm realizing it 20 years later that why it was so important for me to work there because it taught me at that age that I can have an unusual job and
Yeah.
you're happier. And that's one thing I learned. I worked with people who not just the jousters, but the artists, the other performers, the people who did the games and rides. They travel all over the country doing these festivals, and a lot of them live out of tents and trailers and stuff like that. And they kind of live very, very minuscule lives, but they're very happy and they're very content. And I learned that they were some of the happiest people I've met because they got to do what they love. They fed that inner child and stuff like that. And I think it's important to feed that. Like watch a cartoon or a movie from your childhood. You'll remember things. I watched The Lion King, the original Lion King from the 90s last year, and actually I burst into tears because it made me remember that very imaginative child. And I've been going back and doing a lot of that inner child work. And that's where breath work is. I do a lot of breath work sessions. My friend does a breath work every 2 weeks where I go and then scream in a pillow after 30 minutes of breath work. And it really helped release so much emotion and trauma. And you don't realize how much we hold in because we're also
Yes.
taught to hold in our emotions and to release and feel better. It's amazing. I've been doing breath work for about 2 years now. It's amazing how much it's really opened me up. But yeah, inner child work is so important. And that's kind of my little girl is coming out and she's more outspoken and like this is what I'm doing and this is who I am. And I'm proud of who I am. And I'm
Yes.
proud of where I've come from. So and I said not everyone's gonna like me, but that's okay. I also
Yeah.
understand if they don't like me, there's something about me that they need to be working on for themselves for healing. And I bring that out. And sometimes my light shines so bright, it hurts people. It kind of hurts them to look at
Yeah.
sometimes and they get irritated.
It irritates their demons. As I've said that
Yeah.
before too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can always feel if people have something attached, like an entity or something that doesn't want me around because it knows that I can heal them and release it. So I also feel like some of their entities don't want me to go to work because they want to feed off that individual. And if I come in, there's a chance that they won't have that person to feed off of anymore. So
Right. Yeah. A lot of people don't want to think about that, but it's very, very true. It is.
Mhm.
And it's cool that you can see that. And it seems kind of weird that someone could walk through life and be completely oblivious to the fact that they have an attachment like that, but it's so easy. It's so
Well, you
easy
get
to
so used to
continue.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, even, and I still get attachments. I still get things attached. Even last night before I went to bed, my anxiety was really high, but then finally realized, oh, there's something attached to me. So I'm not oblivious. I'm not completely immune. So they still come onto me too. But sometimes I just don't notice it. But I also know when I go through a major shift, it's almost like you open yourself up more so they can kind of sneak in and attach themselves. And I think like your aura has 7 different layers. So sometimes they can hide themselves in one of the layers so you can't feel it. Or they're I think also my understanding it starts out slow. It's almost like I actually get this image right now of a tick. It's like when you first have a tick, you don't notice it, but once it grows, then you start understanding it. And so finally I understood, oh, I have something attached. And one of my guides came through last night and completely removed and kicked it out. So, and that's the thing before I go to bed, I always try to clear myself every night to make sure of anything attached onto me. That's another thing too. When your light shines bright, it attracts flies and other things that you don't want. That's the kind of the side effect. I don't want to say downside. It's the side effect of waking up is those little things are sometimes more attracted. So
Yeah. And I think just standing in our full selves and realizing our true power, because we don't, I think we forget who we are sometimes, even after we've done a lot of this work. I think some days we have to remind ourselves, hey, I don't have to, it doesn't have to be that way. I'm powerful. I can take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, and for the entities and stuff too, when you tell them to go, they have to leave. They're not
Yes.
allowed to stay. When you finally realize, and a lot of people don't realize that you have all the power. Even your guides want to help you. They want to be there, but they're not allowed until you ask. You have to ask for help and you have to be very specific. And I usually I'll ask for the guide that's best for a situation. Like if I have an entity, it's like, hey, can I have the guide that's best for that? Can I have the guide that's best for this? And also I kind of feel like I feel actually my guide's now saying too is you can also have a meeting with all your guides and you can dismiss some of them if you want. If say
Yeah.
like you've had one for a couple of them for a long time and they no longer serve your life path because they were there during one set part of your life and you've moved on, you're allowed to release them and let them go. And of course they're let them go in love. And of course, they won't hold you any grudges or anger.
Right.
That is your choice. I've had friends fire their whole team of guides saying, you guys out. And then a whole new team came in. And it's okay. That and none of your guides are going to be angry and bitter about it. They understand. They signed up for it and then they can go help somebody else. And I always say too with your guides, I mean, I have a whole busload of guides, like a double, I feel like it's like a double decker bus of different guides and I don't know most of their names and what they look like and it's okay. I
Yes.
mean, and some might call themselves like Bob. Their name probably really isn't Bob, but it's just what they told me to tell them. And
Yeah.
so that's how and as my guides tell me too, especially I have a lot of galactic and elemental guides. They just tell me that's their name because they will say it. And they also remind me that I'm not going to be able to see them like I'm looking at you because and sometimes I'll see them in my head. I'll see and some of them are just pure energy beings. I don't actually see what they look like, but I see them in my head. And that's another thing, kind of going back to your inner child, your imagination, that part of you, that's actually your intuition. That's actually your psychic abilities. If you're a very imaginative person, then you are most likely highly intuitive because that's actually what it is. And that's one thing you're taught as a kid that imaginations isn't real or it's not good or it's a distraction, but that's actually your real intuitive gifts. And
Right.
that's what it's saying, use your imagination.
I agree with you 100%. I really do.
Yeah.
And it just, I had a conversation with someone the other day and we were talking about when I was little, my mom told me, I don't remember this actually, but my mom told me when I was little, I had an imaginary friend that was a purple horse. And I often wonder, was that really an imaginary friend or was it a
Yeah,
spirit?
actually,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
hearing yes. I'm hearing yes, and I'm hearing that actually was a unicorn.
A unicorn. Wow.
Yeah, that's another thing too. When you have a lot of us kids have imaginary friends as kids, but
Yeah.
they're actually not imaginary. They are actually 100% real. It's just the parents can't see them. My niece actually had imaginary friends. She had things, and I actually remember one time I told her, "Do you remember the fairies at my house?" And she's like, "Yeah, one came home with me," and so she was like, and I know she and my little niece, she just turned 7. And I can tell she's very gifted and she has a lot of intuitive gifts. And so she absolutely adores me. She, like I said, she thinks I'm the cool aunt. And I know when she was really young, she saw a lot of things, especially come to my house, but she was afraid to say something because my
Yeah.
sister-in-law is not is not that way. She's very much I can't think of the best I can't think of the right word, but she's my sister-in-law's all that image and she lives that more 3D lifestyle where she wants to look like she's has it all together kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So me being the blue-haired psychic crystal loving aunt is probably not ideal for her little niece. So I like I said, my sister-in-law likes me, but I know there's a part of her that is a little intimidated by me and also a little probably embarrassed by me too.
Yeah. And
But
there
it's
may be
okay. It's okay. I
and there may even be a part of her that wishes she had the intestinal fortitude to allow herself the
yeah.
freedoms that you have. Because it takes a lot
Yeah.
of guts. It truly does take a
Yeah.
lot of guts to stand up and say yes and allow
Yeah.
yourself to be in the light. It does.
Yeah. And it does. And it's actually my friend Amaral says all the time, waking up in this journey is not for the faint of heart. It's not for
Right.
everybody. And I'm a very strong person. That's actually part of the reason my mother and I had a very complicated relationship is because I'm a very strong person. I've always been strong through my even through my lifetimes, and I also know that I said things to her that wise things that a 4-year-old and 3-year-old probably shouldn't be saying. So she was very intimidated by me. And like I said, I'm 4'11", but I'm pretty I'm a pretty well a strong person and very set in who I am. I've always been that way. And my whole looking back, I was always the weird kid growing up, and I was the weird horse loving kid. And I even in high school, I was the weird kid among weird kids. But that's how I've been my whole life. And so, and now I found my soul tribe, and I'm front of around a whole group of weird kids. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
not for the faint of heart. It's not, and it is challenging. And also it took me a long time to get to this point. Because if you met me 10 years ago, I was very quiet, very reserved, didn't share my thoughts, didn't share my opinion. I was a bit of a pushover. I let people do whatever they wanted. I was a people pleaser. I was afraid to say anything to anybody because they might get upset. And now I'm at this point. Now I truly am who I'm meant to be. And I got a session with my friend Mary. My birthday was on September 4th, and she does a session for me for my birthday. And she said that I'm the most aware and the most of who I am. It's been lifetime since I've been in this if this and this confident in myself. And I'm also reminding myself too, another kind of another side thing is we do have other lifetimes. And I've been here since Lemurian times. And I actually remember myself in Lemuria. I remember myself coming to Lemuria. I was a priestess and a shaman. I did healings, and I remember doing that stuff. I also use my voice a lot. I have a lot of siren and mermaid energies. So I use a lot of that energy. I also work with the whales a lot. I'm very, very connected with the whales, especially the orca and the humpback and stuff like that. So I can remember all those energies. And then there's other lifetimes where my gifts were really shamed to the point that I was put to death. And I've seen myself in other lifetimes where I was tortured and burned and all sorts of stuff. So a lot of us are a little hesitant to open up to our gifts too, because there's a part of us that are afraid that that might happen.
yeah.
But I'm finally reminded I'm safe. The most I'll get is weird looks, but I won't be tortured for my ability. So that's another reason a lot of people are a little concerned. And I know like myself and my friend Amaral have been oracles in other lifetimes where we'd see the future and see things, and we were kept captive by these warlords and stuff like that. And we would share information, and other people got hurt in the process. It wasn't because we did it directly, but it was because of what we said. So we felt guilty for the things that happened. So it's also a reason why I've been very slow to kind of open back up. But now I'm at the point where I don't care. I'm okay with who I am. I love who I am, and I'm excited for where I'm going. It's scary sometimes, and I still get scared. I still panic and thinking, what the hell am I doing? Why don't I just go get a regular job? And my friends and I joke around like, did we when we signed our soul contract, did we not read the fine print? Or do we just joke around like, hey, this will be really hilarious if we put this in, and then not
Yeah,
knowing what we signed. So, and I
right.
actually found out recently that one of my friends thought she was going to be a man in this life. That's what her contract said, but then her eyes changed to female right before she came in. So I also recently learned your guys can actually write some stuff in for you before you come in.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting plot
So
twist, isn't
I
it?
thought, yeah, I thought that was interesting how like she was supposed to be this, but that she was supposed to be a he, but then she came in as a female. So I was like, that's so interesting. And actually now she says that makes so much more sense of why she the way she is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. Wow. Wow, we covered
Yeah,
a lot
and
of
I'm
ground
still
today, girl. Holy cow. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I'm still learning a lot. I'm still processing things, and it's very overwhelming, but I'm very thirsty for it. I love all this knowledge. I love it coming in. It's I get excited for it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty amazing. I love it too. It's just I don't know, it's like having those aha moments, like where when you're little and you discover this amazing little plant or bug or something, you're like, whoa, that's so cool. It kind of feels like that.
yeah, I feel like I'm at home, and I love how when I wake up and I hear "Welcome back" or "You're here." Or
Yeah.
I mean, I just I like it's been a very tough, hard journey, but now that I'm on the other side, I'm so excited, and I see myself walking down this great big path with all these lights and great things coming. So I know all my struggles and everything I went through was worth it. And if I had to go through it all again, I would, because it got me to this point. Like I say, gratitude is very important for me. And I say thankful every time, even during the worst times of my life. I am so incredibly grateful for it because it made me who I am. And the people in my life don't get to say that they made me who I am. I made me who I am, because I always make sure,
Exactly.
because if I don't want to give my power away to somebody else. I'm strong because I am strong, not because my parents made me that way. So
Right. Yeah, which literally isn't even a thing. Nobody can make you anything. You have to make yourself
no,
something. They can encourage the growth in an area, but they can't make it. It's just,
no. Yeah. And we still have that thing called free will. You still
yes.
have a choice. Even every
Yeah.
day I have a choice. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? But if you follow those paths, even if it's something that's a little uncomfortable outside your comfort zone, still do it. Even if it's something really stupid as that you hear, you should go this way, even though you don't really go that way. It works, because I mean, by listening to some of those little hints, it's amazing the things that have happened. If I look back, if I hadn't, like, I met some of my soul tribe members during my birthday. I was going to go do something, but that got canceled. So I went to do this instead. I ended up meeting them. And if I hadn't met them that day, who knows where I'd be. But that one little change and
Yeah.
listening to it, it completely opened up my world. And it's amazing what has come from it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I'm very excited for you. I feel your
Thank you.
excitement and your willingness to absorb and integrate the information that you're receiving. And I think that's super important, and spreading that love and light, which is what it takes to shift our world right now. I mean, it's all about shifting our world in love, and
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And it sounds corny, but it's true. Love is truly the most powerful force on the planet. Nothing is stronger than love.
Yeah.
So that's why prayer and Reiki and healing, if it comes from a place of love, it's amazing. I mean, and actually, even from your animals, you seen it through their love, how they can change. Like my dog, you can't really see her, but she's passed out sleeping right there. And I love watching her just make people feel better just with that loving energy. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Four-legged little angels they are.
They
So
are. I love working with them because like I always learn something from them. So
yeah, that's very awesome. So if people would love to work with you on some level with their pets or with themselves. You coach humans too, or just
yeah, well, this is how I describe it. Like I said, my business is Elementales Intuitive Animal Services. I always like to share the logo because that way it's easier for people to find me. I do have a Facebook page. So just type in Elementales Intuitive Animal Services, look for the logo. I don't have a website yet. One will come when I get more funding, it will come so they can reach out to me. I primarily work with animals. So what I do with the sessions is I do Reiki or healing, energy healing with your animals, which I clear anything they take on from us or if they have any physical ailments. And then I also share what they want to share with you. I'm kind of like the real life Dr. Doolittle. I can talk to them like I'm talking to you, and I share what they want to, why they do certain things. And also, since I was a groomer, I've worked with horses, I have cats, I have a vast knowledge of animals from learning stuff as a kid. So I can't fix anything, but I can give suggestions. And even if your animals aren't going through anything that you feel like they need it, it's still good to tap in to see how they're doing and release that energy. Because like I said, they take on our stress and anxiety. They take on a lot of our stuff. So if your dog is feeling kind of sick and not too great, it's probably because they've taken on something from you and they need to release that. And then for the people stuff, I do offer intuitive sessions and Reiki sessions for people. I also do Akashic readings, but that's something people ask for. It's like it's part of my services, but animals are my main focus. And I really want to start working with horses more because horses are a big part of my life. They've been out of my life for 10 years and they're coming back in, and that's what I really want to focus on because horses are amazing healers. They have the biggest heart space. So that's kind of what I primarily work with is people and animals with their animals because that's what I'm passionate about. So
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So if so people can find you on Facebook, and you'll send me your
mhm.
links. I'll drop them in the description box below the
Yeah.
videos so people can find you easily. Thank you
Yeah,
so
and
much.
I'm very
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'm also very recently priced. I don't overdo it. It's only like 55 for small animal, which is all dogs, and $75 for large animals like horses. I don't want to overcharge because I feel like some people in this industry overcharge. So I want to make sure I'm reasonable and not ridiculous and take advantage of people. So,
Yeah. Okay. Duly noted. Thank you so much.
mhm.
So I appreciate you coming
Yeah,
on, Kelly, and sharing your energy and your time with us today. And I will again like just drop your information in the description box below the video so people can find you easily. So
great,
thank you. Thank you
great.
everyone for joining us on this episode. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can get this information out to everyone. If you know someone who would benefit from Kelly services besides yourself, please send them her way. So thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one. I love
Thank
you all.
you. Thank you.